In this lesson, we are going to be talking about route guards. Route guards, in the context of React Router, refers to a mechanism that allows us to control access to routes based on certain conditions or rules. They are used to protect certain routes in your application and ensure that the user meets certain criteria before accessing those routes. A typical use case of this are pages that hold sensitive data and requires a user to log in to access that page. Alright, let's head back to our code and see how that works. Our auth profile component is similar to the single user component, but it has a bit more information and obviously shows the logged in user's GitHub profile, as we'll see shortly. Whereas in the login.js component, we have a login functionality with a dummy user object that redirects us to the auth profile page when the user is successfully logged in. So this is the dummy user object. You can change it to whatever object you want, and then this is what we are going to be using to log in. I just kind of use this to mimic a login scenario, so we don't have to be playing around with any live APIs. Alright, if you want to change the username, just make sure it's actually a username that exists inside of GitHub. So this doesn't return an error when we are working, but you can just leave it at mine and we are going to work with that perfectly. We'll see how we can protect the auth profile component and make it only accessible when the user is authenticated. Now let's see how we can achieve that. First of all, let's head over to our app.js file and let's create individual routes for our login and auth profile pages. Again, we will nest it inside of our navbar route, and then here we can create another route just like this. We set the first element to our login component, and then we can set the path to simply be /login, just like this. I'm just going to copy and paste this, and then we'll change the component to our auth profile component. Obviously, you have to import that above, and then we can change the path to auth profile, just like this. After that, we need to define a few state values for our authentication to work. We need a username state variable. So still inside of our app.js, we're just going to create a state variable, say const username, and then set username. Then we can set that to a use state, just like this. We also need an isLogged state variable. Just like we have our username over here, we just have to create another one and say const isLogged set isLogged, and then we simply set that to false. This is going to be a boolean that holds the state of the authentication. Alright, so let's just put quotes over here. Alright, now in our login route, inside of our login component, we need to pass a set is logged prop and a set username prop. So let's just define them here. Set is logged is equal to set is logged, just like this. And then we also pass set username as the set username prop, just like this. Now for our auth profile, we only need to add the username prop. So in here, we're just going to say username, and then we put our username as the value. Alright, now let's test this component and see if they actually work before we get the route. If we head back to our browser and go to /login first, and then in our login.js file, you can see that the dummy user object we have is set to username Kolosafo and then password 12345. So make sure this is the exact username and password you input. If not, this is not going to work. Alright, so here I'm just going to say Kolosafo, and then our password will be 12345. If I hit submit, as you can see, it takes us to the auth profile page over here, and it says your profile and it has my GitHub profile information. Alright, that works perfectly. Now let's implement route guarding. So whenever we come to this component, actually let's refresh and see what happens. You see we have nothing displaying here, which means The user is not authenticated and we don't actually know which user to grab from GitHub because there is no authenticated user. So we need to guard this route, so whenever a user attempts to come to this route without being authenticated, they get redirected back to the login page. I hope that makes sense. Let's head back to our code and see how that works. Alright, so React Router offers a component called Navigate. This is different from the useNavigate hook. The Navigate component prevents a page from showing up and redirects to another page based on our application logic. Let's see how that works. Still inside of our app.js file, let's import the Navigate from React Router DOM. So up here, just where we have the route and routes from React Router DOM, we're just going to add a comma and call the Navigate hook, just like this. Oh, this is supposed to be a comma, not a full stop. All right, now as we've imported the Navigate component, let's see how we can use that to protect our route. So obviously the route we want to protect is the auth profile route. And the way we do that, inside of our element prop, we are going to add a condition to check if the user is logged or not. And if the user is logged, we want to display this auth profile component. If not, we'll use the Navigate component to redirect the user back to the login page. Inside of our element prop of the auth profile route, we're just going to add a condition here and say, so we'll use a ternary expression. So we'll say it's logged and then a comma. And this simply means if it's logged, do this. And then at the end, we are going to add a column, else we need to do something else. And this is where we are going to use our Navigate component. So we call the Navigate, just like this. So first of all, what this logic basically does is it checks if the user is logged, and if that is true, it's going to show the auth profile component. If not, this Navigate component is going to trigger. Now inside this Navigate component, let's specify what pages to navigate back to if the user is not authenticated. Inside the Navigate component, let's pass a replace prop to it, just like this. And this basically means we want to replace this route with another route. All right, so after the replace, and then we add a to prop and tell you what route to go to. So we want to take the user to the login page if the user is not authenticated. I think this is pretty intuitive. So the Navigate component replaces this route with the login route if the user is not logged. That's basically what this whole line of code does. All right, let's head back to our browser and see if this actually works. So back in our browser, let's test that by simply trying to go to the auth profile page from the URL. If I hit enter, you see we keep getting redirected back to the login page. And if I try that again, as you can see, if I hit enter, we keep getting navigated back to our login page, and that works. Now let's actually log in and see if we get redirected to the auth profile page properly. So we've seen one side of the coin. Now let's log in and see if it works. Kolosafo and then password 1 2 3 4 5. If I hit submit, now you can see we have our auth profile page rendering for us. That's because we logged in and the user is now authenticated, and that's why this works. If I try to reload this page, we should get redirected back to our login route since our application state is going to restart. All right, let's reload and see. As you can see, we get redirected back to the login page. And again, let's try to go to the auth profile page dynamically from the URL. If I hit enter, we still get redirected. So this is how you protect routes in React Router using the Navigate component. Again, I can understand if this is a bit overwhelming for a start. But just as I assume you now know perfectly how to create a route and use the link component to navigate between pages, you will get enough practice to grasp every other concept regarding React Router as we move into building projects in the later sections of this course.